Good morning or afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeremy Walsh, and I'm the Director of Support, Training, and Documentation for BNI Connect. I would like to welcome everybody to the webinar today. Today's webinar is um, actually the last one in our monthly series of member and leadership team webinars. Today we're going to be going over the leadership team tools and reports. So what we're going to do is we're going to really go through the system more from a leadership team perspective than a member perspective, and take a look at all of the various tasks that happen from a leadership team standpoint. One of the things that's important about today's webinar is that as much as possible, I do try to cover all of the different leadership team perspectives. So president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, membership committee, things like that, without necessarily saying, it's always the vice president that does this, or it's always the secretary treasurer that does this. And the reason that I do that is because there is some amount of delegation that happens in a lot of regions. Just to give you one very quick example of that, in my region, for example, where I am a member, by the way. I'm a member here in the Rhode Island region in the northeastern United States. But here in Rhode Island, our vice presidents enter the Palms reports. Well, I know that a lot of places in Canada and some other places in the United States, they delegate that to somebody on the membership committee because the vice president has so many other responsibilities. In some areas, the visitor host enters all of the visitors into BNI Connect, whereas in other areas, it is the secretary treasurer that does that data entry. So when I'm talking about these various tools in the system, just know that your area may do things slightly differently. And the permissions to do a lot of these things are by default shared by all the leadership teams. So by default, the president, vice president, and secretary treasurer could all go in and adjust the speaker rotation or enter a Palms report, unless that's been customized in your area. A little bit more housekeeping before we get right into this today. First one is, this is a live webinar, so as we're going through the material, please do feel free to ask questions. The only silly question is the unasked question, but the best way to ask a question is to type that question in to the question panel here in the GoToMeeting software, and I'll see that question pop up on my screen, and I'll be able to answer that as we're going through the material today. Most of the webinars that we do are about 30 minutes. However, this one does cover a bit more material and tends to go into the 45 to 60 minute range. I will absolutely stay on this call until every single question is answered. And for those of you that may have a very tight schedule or might need to leave early, I am recording this session as well, so you can go back and review it later. You could also share it with your other leadership team members or other people that have responsibilities in your chapter. There's a couple of different places that you can find the recordings. The first place that you can find them is on the support site. And you'll find them by clicking on this question mark when you're logged in to BNI Connect. So there's a question mark in the red bar in the top right-hand corner of the screen. And if you do that, that will take you over to our support site, support.bniconnect.com. We have a ton of walkthroughs and guides and all sorts of stuff up here. You'll also see our webinar schedule, which will be updated shortly to include next month's series of webinars. And the recordings you'll find under chapter training and documentation. You'll see them categorized by month. And for example, you can see all the webinars for April. You can watch them right there, or of course you can go and click on our YouTube channel directly, which is youtube.com/BNI Connect Global. And we have a ton of things up there as well. Of course, all of our recorded webinars, but we also have things like 3 to 5 minute educational moments that you're welcome to use in your chapter if you have multimedia available. Then there's also special announcements from Dr. Meisner, all sorts of stuff up here on our YouTube channel. So please do check that out and subscribe if you would like to be notified of new things coming through. But all right, let's take a look now at BNI Connect from a leadership team perspective. The first thing that I want to go over is this home screen. Now, a couple of questions always arise, and the leadership teams are asked about this. One thing that you will get is if you are using the online slips in BNI Connect, and to submit online slips, it's very easy. You go on the home screen here and you can submit a thank you for closed business, or for example, a referral slip. Choose somebody from your chapter, fill out the information, it sends an email right away, and for any vice presidents or the data entry people on the line, all of these online slips that are entered through BNI Connect by the members will automatically appear on the POMS report when you go to enter them. So that makes it a lot easier from your perspective to do that data entry on a weekly basis, because all of that information is already entered. But a couple of questions always arise with that, and the first of which is that when you submit a slip online, these numbers up top in the My BNI Business Report, those don't change right away. Those will only change after the weekly POMS report has been officially submitted. So a lot of members will say, well, I just submitted a referral slip, but it still says I only have 44 given. How come it hasn't updated yet? And again, it will only update after your meeting and after you've submitted the POMS report, which we'll show you how to do today. Another question that is inevitably asked of leadership team people is, a member comes to you and says, oh, my numbers, they're just not correct. And, I have way too many absences on there. I wasn't absent that many times, or, I had way more referrals. One easy way that you can troubleshoot this with members is to have them log into BNI Connect and click on the My Personal Participation Report. When they click on the My Personal Participation Report, this will give them their last 1 year of activity directly from the POMS week by week. So regardless of whether they're using slips or whether they're using the online version, all of the weekly activity is taken out of the POMS. And this makes it really easy to troubleshoot from a member's perspective where the absences are. So you can see here, again, I am a member. I was absent, or rather my substitute didn't show up on April 30th. So I could see exactly which week it was, not just that I had 2 absences or had 3 absences. All right, we do have a question here from, I believe it's Parvez. I apologize if I'm saying your name incorrectly. What is the connection between BNI Connect and local sites? Are they totally different, or do they work in sync? I'm assuming that you're talking about the chapter websites and the regional websites. Is that correct? And if so, and I guess let me ask you a follow-up question. Are you from Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Virginia, or Chicago, or Maryland? And if so, so you're from Virginia. So your sites will be coming live shortly. So your website, when it comes live, is going to be bninova.com, Northern Virginia. So right now, let's take a look. I think it's still being developed, possibly. Yep, so this is still the old BNI web site. Very soon, you will have a BNI Connect site that will be totally tied to the region. So the information that's pulled from there is just directly taken from BNI Connect. For example, I'm in the Rhode Island region. If I click on this regional website button up here in the upper right-hand corner, this will take me to my regional website. And all of the information on the site is customized, but also drawn directly from BNI Connect. So if I go to this chapter map, for example, this is pulling the actual chapter information from BNI Connect live. If I go to find a member and I look for people that do computers in Rhode Island, it will pull up all the people that are active in chapters. It pulls up my profile. This is directly taken from BNI Connect. So all of the information is, quote unquote, live. It doesn't necessarily work in sync per se, because we're not syncing the information between multiple sites and servers. It's actually just querying BNI Connect and pulling up the active information at the time that it's pulled. Does that make sense, Parvez? Does that help? All right. If you have additional questions on that, do feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email, support@bniconnect.com, and we can definitely help out with that. But it will make much more sense once your regional website goes live, which should happen pretty soon. All right. All right. So in order to do some of our other leadership team tasks, so really this front page here, this is all member stuff. So this is the stuff that you're going to be doing as a member on a daily or a weekly basis. Again, submitting the slips, reviewing the slips that you've passed through BNI Connect, reviewing your personal statistics. But when we need to start managing the chapter, we need to start managing things like the speaker rotation, the POMS report, the visitors, the things like that, we do need to go beyond the home screen here. And we're going to start diving into some of these reports up at the top. Now, the way I always remember to find stuff is network is going to be all of the social media things. So if you're looking to connect with other members around the world, or look at your BNI Connections address book, or if you want to do testimonials, if you're going to do the discussion groups, things like that, that's going to be found under the network menu. Operations is the day-to-day operations of running a chapter. That's where you're going to be entering POMS report and speaker rotation. If you're looking to do data input, you're going to go to operations. Reports, on the other hand, is always going to be output. And then tools is very special functions like the chapter website, and admin is going to be, most people just don't have access to admin because it's mostly back-end settings over there. So the place that you're going to live most of the time is really operations and reports. Operations, anytime you want to do input, and reports whenever you're looking for statistics or output. Deanna has a quick question. She says, how accurate and or true are the POMS reports if each members have access to enter their own electronically? And believe it or not, they're very accurate. And the reason for that is that there is personal accountability now, especially with things like referrals. It's really hard to submit a junk referral or a fake referral in BNI Connect because your referral partner is going to get a notification about that referral and going to question that referral later. Same thing with a one-to-one. If I put a one-to-one in, it's going to show up in my partner's one-to-one list as well. So there's a little bit of personal accountability between the members and submitting that information. And from a VP or from a data entry person perspective, there's also an audit log of the system so you can see what's being entered. And we'll show you that in just a second. But does that help answer your initial question there, Deanna? Excellent. All right, so let's take a dive in beyond this home screen. The first thing we're going to go is and look at some of the operations that are available. So the day-to-day operations of running a chapter. So I'm going to go to Operations, Chapter. Now, under the chapter operations, you'll see a number of things on the left-hand side. And down the left-hand side are really different categories of management. We have manage visitors. We have meeting management, manage memberships, manage goals, the mentoring program, create email, and manage news. Now, we're not going to go through all of these today. For example, the goals program. The goals program is awesome, but we do have a webinar. We just finished it yesterday, but we have a webinar that is just completely dedicated to the ins and outs of entering goals. So I invite you to watch a recording of that or join us for the next live one next month. The news is also a very special function that allows you to put content on your chapter website without necessarily going in and editing the full website. So another special function, but I want to cover some of the most common ones today. So the first one I just want to go over real quick is this email function, and that's one thing that just about all leadership teams need to do regularly, and that is get in touch with your chapters. Whether it's emailing, reminding them that you're going to be having a visitors day coming up, or reminding them that you're going to be doing somebody else's 60-second presentation this week, or whatever it is that you need to get in touch with your chapter for. The place to go is this create email function. And the first thing here is email my chapter. Now, I remember before BNI Connect, if I wanted to email my chapter, I would have to go in and go to my email, look for the last email that went around and hit reply all, which never really went to the right people. So what this does is it really gives you your distribution list for your chapter. So you can look at that, start up your own email in your own email software, and copy and paste that. I do always recommend copying and pasting things into the BCC line. The BCC line will make sure that this email, you don't get 100 replies to a bunch of yeah, I got it. It'll also keep members' emails private in case that email gets forwarded out somewhere else. Just type your email normally and you should be good to go on getting an email out to your chapter. Deanna has a question. Sure, I'll touch on that as soon as we get to that in a second. Okay, Deanna? The next thing that's under here, under create email, that I want to show you is this ability for you or your chapter members to email a visitor invitation. And this is a nifty little tool. And I find that it really helps people that are especially nervous about inviting, or people that are very casual about inviting, because it gives a much more professional invitation to a prospective person visiting the chapter. So really, I use this most of the time as a second invitation. So if I'm at a networking event or something and I'm talking to somebody, I say, oh yeah, great having you here. Why don't you come, and I'd love to introduce you to my networking, my referral partners at my networking meeting. If they say yes, I'll then send them this invitation. And all we have to do is fill out a little bit of information, and it's going to pull everything else from BNI Connect, put it into a template, and send that off. So let's say, John Smith from Smith Co. and the email address. Now, this is a very simple tool. We're not storing email addresses. We're not tracking how many people are sending out or building up a distribution list or anything. It's really just a means to get a professional branded invitation out. So if you'd like to test it, just put your own email address in. Type a quick personal message, which is going to be the first paragraph of the email. It was great meeting you at the networking event. I would love to introduce you to my referral partners. And click send. And this should now send out an email right away. I do have it already. And here we go. You can see it has a nice branded BNI image in there. Dear John, it was great meeting you. You're cordially invited to the BNI Burr chapter. This is my test chapter up in Antarctica. Where it's located, what days you meet, what time. Lets them know that it's a business and professional networking organization. Tells them looking for that position, and let you know that if you are able to attend. And by the way, if they hit reply, this will go to you. So the reply will go to whatever email address is listed in your BNI Connect profile. Let's see, Wilf, I believe it is, asks, this feature is not available in Canada. One of the things about BNI Connect is that all of the features can be either turned on or off at the discretion of your regional office. So if I'm going over something today that you don't see on your screen, then the person to talk to would be your executive director, and they make the decisions as to what's turned on, what's turned off within BNI Connect. Another thing to keep in mind is that it may be listed there under a different name, especially in Canada, where I know you guys have a lot of French-speaking Canadians. Everything in BNI Connect is translatable. So every single label, every single field. So it could be that they decided that create email wasn't the right thing to be listed here, and it's called something slightly different. So it would be this, fifth or sixth menu item down that's listed here. So, all right. Deanna says, love it. My only wish is if it is possible to add a hyperlink to register as an option instead of just replying. I 100% agree with you. I would love to see a registration link put in there. The only reason that it's not is because the registration platform came much, much later. And at that time, it just wasn't possible to go back and create the dynamic registration link, but that's definitely on the wish list. All right, so that is the email invitation. Now, let's talk about visitors a little bit in the visitor host position, or sometimes secretary treasurers. But the next step in the process is to register your visitors that are coming to the meeting. And you can do that through this manage visitors function. And there's 4 different options in here, and the wording can be a little bit confusing. If you have some suggestions for that, please, by all means, I'd love to hear them to make them a little bit clearer. But the one we have register a prospective visitor before a meeting, and then we also have record visitors after the meeting. Now, I'm not going to go into this too much because we also have a whole webinar on the visitor process from start to finish. But one thing to keep in mind is that it's a great idea to register visitors as soon as they say, yes, I'd like to come to a meeting. What this does is when I register somebody to visit the meeting beforehand, I fill out the form, I choose the visit date, and notice that I can only choose future dates. And once I register my visitor, those visitors will be sent an email saying, congratulations, you are now registered to visit this meeting on this date. That greatly increases the potential that the visitor will actually show up, because now it's a lot more official. It's not just come to the meeting whenever you want to. It will also send them a reminder 2 days before the meeting saying, by the way, just wanted to let you know, you are registered to visit. Now, all of a sudden, they're compelled to come to the meeting. We find that visitors are more likely to show up, and they also are calling, if they can't make it, calling to apologize, which gives you the chance to reschedule them for a future meeting. In addition to that, all of the information about this incoming visitor will be emailed to the leadership team and the visitor host saying, congratulations, somebody just registered to visit your chapter. So keep that in mind. You do want to take a moment to register your prospective visitors. Deanna asks, can we customize the letters that go out? Unfortunately, you cannot customize the letters that go out. The letters can be customized, but they do have to be customized at the regional level by the executive director, and they will affect all chapters in the region. But if you do find that it needs a little tweaking, talk to your executive director, your director consultant, and you can work with them to change those. Wilf says that anti-spam is preventing some of those things from happening. I apologize for that. I'm sorry. After the meeting, after you've had your meeting, you definitely want to now mark your visitors as attended. So if you go into manage your registered visitors, Hardy asks, what's the difference between creating an email and registering? So creating the email, sending an invitation just says, hey, I'd love for you to come and visit a meeting, but it's an open invitation. Registering the visitor says, yes, this person is coming to the meeting. So it's confirming their desire to visit at that point. All right, so it's just 2 different steps in a line of touches. Once the visitor has come to the meeting, or if they call and say, hey, I can't make it, you can go into this manage visitor registrations. And let's say that we had our meeting yesterday at the BNI Burr chapter, and I did show up to the meeting on the 27th, so I'm going to go in. I'm going to edit this record here, and the option will then be given to me The visitor attended this meeting. So I can now check this off. It will then give me the option, does the person that invited this visitor get credit in the POMS report? Add visitor to POMS. I can choose that as a yes or a no. I then verify all the information. I do have to verify who invited them. And I can go through the rest of this. I can also choose whether or not to send a follow-up email. And if I choose to send a follow-up email, now this visitor will get a thank you for visiting the BNI Burr chapter. That visitor, because I chose to add to POMS, will also be presented to the vice president for approval, or whoever's entering the POMS report. And by the way, here's the email that just came through. It said, "Hi, Jeremy. Thank you for recently visiting the BNI Burr chapter on 5/27. Some of the benefits of BNI, so on and so forth." So that's visitors in BNI Connect. And if somebody didn't pre-register, you want to just make sure you hit the add visitor, because you're building a visitor database for your chapter, which you can then go follow up with visitors later and work with those visitors. All right, let's go back to the operations menu. Let's look at some of the other daily and weekly tasks. Let me go through a couple of the quote unquote easier ones first. There is a mentoring program here in BNI Connect that allows you to assign a mentor and a mentee pair. The mentor program is really, it's a 7 to 8 week program that when a new member joins, you pair them up with an existing member. Usually somebody in their contact sphere is a good idea, or somebody that's a very high producing member. And that new member really takes them under their wing and meets with them once a week for the first 6, 7, 8 weeks of their membership. And what this mentoring program does, I'm going to go in and assign a mentor-mentee. I'm going to choose the date that I want this mentoring to start. And I'd actually like them to start getting the emails on June 1st. Let's see, Adam Sandler is going to be mentoring Ricky Martin here. And what will happen is, starting on the 1st, they will get an email every week saying, okay, this is week 1 of the mentoring program. You need to sit down and talk about making sure that you have a member success program scheduled. You're going to sit down and talk about the importance of doing a good weekly presentation. And it follows through with an email every week for, depending on which area you're in, 7 to 8 weeks. You can also view the mentors by clicking on that and seeing the list of people that are currently involved in an ongoing mentoring program. If you'd like to see what the emails look like, one recommendation I have is pick another person from your leadership team and assign each other as a mentor-mentee, and you can see what those emails look like for that period of time. All right, let's take a look at meeting management now. So there's a couple of things here. Again, mostly the vice presidents / membership committees, they're going to be going in and doing the POMS report on a weekly basis. And then also usually the secretary treasurers, they're going to be doing the speaker rotation. So let's take a look at how do we add speakers in on a weekly basis. And usually you don't want to register more than 6 to 8 weeks out. But this is where you're going to do that. So I'm going to go to View Edit Speakers. And I can put a date in if I want to view the speakers. So let's take a look at my upcoming speakers. So right now, let's see, we have Thea that is scheduled for the 6th, we have Louise that's scheduled for the 13th, and we have Marky Mark for the 20th. So I'd like to go in and schedule my speakers out for the next month or so. I can do that by clicking on Assign Speaker. And the next date that I can choose is going to be next week's meeting on the 3rd. And let's see, we have who's going to speak that week? I guess Ricky Martin, he'll do a little number on the 3rd, and we submit that, and now we have our speaker lined up for the 3rd. Now, we did have a question from Deanna before. What if you have 2 speakers? There are some larger chapters that do have 2 weekly speakers. BNI Connect will accommodate 2 different speakers. It is a chapter setting that your region has to set. So if I go in right now, I'm up in the Burr chapter here. If I go in to try to assign another speaker on the 3rd, if I try to assign a second speaker, it is telling me that all the slots are full on that day, which means that my region needs to go in, the executive director for Antarctica would need to go in and adjust the chapter properties in order to accommodate 2 speakers, which is very easy to do. You don't have access to do it on your side, though. You do need to talk to your director consultant or your executive director to do that. So does that help, Deanna? All right, but yeah, again, my chapter has 2 speakers a week. Now, one of the benefits of entering the speakers is I know you guys, a lot of you guys don't have your regional websites set up quite yet. But for example, my chapter website, what you can see here is that I was actually the featured speaker this morning at my chapter meeting. But you'll see that the next month of upcoming speakers are listed on your chapter website. So it's a little bit of Google visibility out there for the members that are upcoming speakers. And the other nice thing is it also emails reminders. So 3 days ago, and 6 days ago, I got a reminder saying, hey, Jeremy, just a reminder, you are the speaker this week. Make sure you're prepared. And by the way, make sure you bring a door prize. Wilf asks, what if there's a holiday that day? If there's a holiday that day, just don't schedule somebody for that day. But there's no way to move the date around or to black out a week or anything like that. One thing you'll notice is that you may also see your directors scheduled in there. And one question I do often get asked is, there's a bunch of names that I don't recognize in the list. So there's going to be your chapter members in the list, but also your regional support staff will be in the list as well. Your executive director is going to be listed, your national director is going to be listed, and all the director consultants in your area. Anybody that's quote unquote eligible to speak will be listed, even if it's unlikely that they would be a speaker in your group. Wilf asks, what if we want to do a chapter builder that week? I would say either just don't schedule anybody or maybe schedule somebody from your leadership team or your director consultant that would be doing that chapter builder, or just leave it blank that week. All right. So that's the speaker rotation. Any quick questions on that? Whoops. Well, says your system doesn't allow it to be blank. You're correct. You can't assign a blank. What I would do is just not assign somebody for that week. So, I mean, I can assign somebody for the 3rd, and then I could assign somebody for the 10th, or I'm sorry, the 17th, and not have anybody be listed there for the 10th in between. So that's what I meant by leaving it quote unquote blank. So does that make sense? Does that help, Wilf? All right, so that is the speaker rotation. Let's go back to the operations menu. The last thing we're going to go over here is the POMS report. Oh, Deanna says, I would assume that each member can update their own speaker date if they are switching. The members, generally speaking, do not have access to that. That is something that somebody from the leadership team would have to do to delete somebody out of the speaker rotation and add somebody new. There's also, unfortunately, no way to just like shift the speaker rotation, but you can replace somebody. To be completely honest with you, we don't recommend shifting the speaker rotation. A lot of people do plan certain visits and chapter things around the week that they're told, 2, 3, 4, 6 weeks in advance, myself included, who does a lot of travel. It's important for me to know when I'm speaking a long time in advance, and if my secretary treasurer was to just shift everybody up or backwards a week, that that could really mess some people up. So hopefully that helps, Deanna. All right, so POMS report, POMS report. There's two different options here for the POMS. There's a view POMS summary and enter POMS. View POMS summary allows you to go in and look at any individual POMS report. Enter POMS allows you to go in and, well, enter a POMS report. Now, you can also enter a POMS report when you're in the view screen. So let's first take a look at view POMS summary. So once I'm here, I just need to pick a date. You can go back as far in time as you want to from the inception of your chapter. For those of you that migrated over, everything up through April should have been migrated into the system. So you can go back and look at previous reports. Historically, they should be there. If not, let your chapter director know or let us know at support and we can take a closer look at that. Reports from the month of May will need to be manually re-entered into the system. And then hopefully going forward, more and more of your chapters will use the online slips, which will, as I said, greatly make your lives a lot easier. So we can go back, we can see my list up in the Burr chapter. Our VP, myself, is very, very bad at filling out these POMS reports on a regular basis, so we can see a bit of a scattering of them. But if I needed to, let's say the meeting of the 22nd, I wanted to go back and review that, I would just click on the word completed. And I could view the details of that POMS report. And we can see I have a bunch of slackers in this chapter. But if I needed to, I could click on Unlock POMS if I need to go in and make any edits to it. I could also click on this button. This button is the Slips Audit Report. And what this is the ability to look at all of the online slips that happened in the chapter that week. So we can see here that this week we did have one online entry, which was Art Garfunkel. Got credit for Peter Plummer as a visitor. So that was the only online entry. I'll show you an example of a very active chapter. I'll show you, my chapter is completely paperless. So I will show you that in just a few minutes. But if I need to enter a POMS report, I would just click on the Enter POMS button, either back in the operations menu or when I'm in this utility. When I click on Enter POMS, the first thing that I'm going to be asked is to verify and accept any of these visitors. So I can see there's a bunch of visitors here. I can see who's going to get credit for the visitors, and I'm going to see which POMS report they're going to be entered into. If it's a POMS report, especially in the past, that has already been entered, I will have the option of looking at that POMS report to check for a double entry. If not, I can just go ahead and say yes or no. For example, should Alfred E. Newman get credit for John Smith on 4/29? I can say yes. John Smith did show up that day, and I can make decisions on each of these. Once you're done looking at these, click Continue. I'm going to choose the date of the entry. So let's say I'm going to enter our meeting information for yesterday. I click Enter POMS. And now it's just a matter of filling out the spreadsheet. For anybody that isn't sure what all of these terms mean at the top, you can hover over them and it will give you the long title. POMS obviously is present, absent, late, medical, and substitute. RGI and RGO. RG stands for referrals given, and I and O is inside and outside. So a inside referral is when two members do business with each other. So they're personally doing business with one another. And an outside referral is when I introduce you to anybody else that I know. I mean, it could be my wife, my mother, my uncle, my cousin, my business associate. Anybody else that I'm introducing from my network, that is now an outside referral. Same thing, there's the recipient of the inside or outside referral. Visitors, one-to-ones, thank you for closed business. And if you're using them, CEUs, you do have to scroll over for. They're hidden over here on the right-hand side, but we have our CEUs. And again, it's just going to be, if you're using paper, you're just going to have to go, Roger Dodger had a referral given to Ricky Martin, received that referral. Jacob Goodwin had a one-to-one with Albert Camus. Alfred E. Newman was thanked for $100 in thank you for closed business. When you're all set, when you've entered all that information, you've taken attendance, you want to go ahead and submit this. If you have only gotten part way through, what you can do is click on Save as Draft, and that will allow you to just save it and go back to it later. There's two other options here. Discard palms. So if you discard the palms, it will just throw the palms away and start all over again. If you discard the palms, if there was online activity, online slips, they will be regenerated into the new copy of the palms report. That'll just discard all manual entry. Mark as holiday. That is a special one that if you do not meet, if your chapter does not get together for a week, and some people call that going dark, what you want to do is mark that as a holiday. What that means is that that meeting will be closed out with no statistics, and it won't count towards any of the other statistics such as traffic lights or any of the per member per week statistics that are out there. So if you don't meet, definitely go in as soon as possible and mark it as a holiday. When it's all set, this one I'm just going to go ahead and submit the palms. It'll process that. It'll then show up on the screen. It'll just give me one last chance to review it. And again, if I have permission to do so, if I need to make changes, I could unlock it. Now, we do have a question here from Wilf. It says, I changed the palms report in April. Now it shows as the status of draft. How do I complete it? So what you want to do is go to the View Chapter Palms. Choose the date range. So I have one here from 5/13 that is draft. I'm going to click on the word draft. At the bottom, you should see a link that says Edit Palms. This will bring me into the edit mode. Anytime I go to enter or edit a palms, it's going to ask me again to accept any visitors that were entered, or I can bypass it by clicking continue. And then we can go in and finish this palms report up and click submit. Does that help, Wilf? All right, confirm that you want to submit it and click OK. Now, let me just, before we exit out of the operations, let me just show you a chapter real quick that I'm going to show you my own personal chapter. We do all of our activity online, so that means that our vice president, when they go to do the weekly report, all that she has to do is go in, take attendance, and submit the report. We went from about 90 minutes or so, because we have a 50-person chapter, somewhere between 60 and 90 minutes to enter the palms, to only needing about 3.5 minutes. So I'm in the United States here. Hold on a second. Let me switch over to my live region here. And the Wakefield chapter, that's where I am. So, for example, we have a draft for today's meeting. And this shows our chapter. Now, if I click on the Slips Audit Report, again, this shows us all of the online activity. So this is a way that, we had the question before about accountability. for the vice president and for the members. You can still see all of the activity that's going on. You still have full control over the POMS report as well, if changes need to be made or if statistics need to be adjusted or even deleted. So hopefully that helps. All right, so that is the operations. That's the day-to-day operations. Now I'm just going to go into the reports. We have about 10 to 15 minutes till the top of the hour, so I want to make sure that we cover a bunch of reports as well. But before I do that, are there any other questions on the operations stuff? Deanna asks, on the right view bar, so over here, there is a document folder. Can we use that for documents, to upload documents? The documents that are listed here are going to be your regional documents. So that is a tool that only your regional office uses to share things with you. For example, the visitor sign-in sheet here for my region. Now keep in mind that this list here is only the first 10 documents in the list. If you want to see all of the documents, go back to your home screen, click on My Network, and you'll see in the Documents tile here, click the More button, and here's where you'll see all of the documents for your region. My region, we have about 50 documents uploaded, everything from director evaluations to the gains profile, format sheet, meeting stimulants, all sorts of things up here, up on the shared documents. So hopefully that helps, Deanna. But again, it's your region that will upload documents. All right, so let's take a look at some reports. So if I go to Reports Chapter, now I am not going to go through all 15 or so reports on here. Do feel free to go and click on them at your leisure. You can't really break anything when it comes to reports because none of it is data entry. It's all just data output. So feel free to poke around, look at things. I just want to touch upon maybe about a half a dozen, 6, 7 reports that I think are pretty important for leadership team people. All right, the first one, they pretty much happen to be the first 6 or 7 in the list, by the way. But that being said, let's take a look. Member training report, pretty obvious. It's going to show you who's been to what trainings in your chapter. But I think the more important part of this particular report is that you also have this option here that says show never attended. This one is especially helpful for you people that are doing the speaker rotation, because one of the things that we're taught is we should not be scheduling people until they've done their member success program. So what we can do is we can choose, for example, member success program and show never attended. And this will give me a list from my chapter of anybody in my chapter that has not attended the member success program. So we have 3 people here that have not attended. They're relatively new members. But I know on the leadership team that I should be making sure that they are getting out there so that I can get them scheduled for a member success program. Now, for those of you that are on the call that have migrated from another country or from another area, these records may not be 100% accurate. My recommendation to you is if you run this report, just kindly ask your chapter members when they attended a member success program and send that list to the regional office. The regional office can update this to make sure that people's trainings, they may need to get manually re-entered. So just a note for you that have migrated into the system. Chapter roster report, another fairly straightforward report, but there's a couple of little tweaks on here that I think are very interesting. The first of which is that obviously it's going to have your chapter roster. So the names, the professions, phone numbers, company names, things like that. But at the top is all of the officers and regional leadership. This is really important, especially if you have things like, you're talking about assigning a mentor, and your mentor coordinator goes in and can't find the mentor assignment link. Most of the time that is because various permissions to things in the system are part of the role that you have in the system. So If the person is not listed on the roster as being the mentor coordinator, it means that they may not have permissions to do that. Again, talk to your regional office, your executive director. They should be able to correct those assignments. It's also good to, if you need to look up the information or get in touch with your director consultant, your area director, your ambassador. These will have the phone numbers and everything listed. I did just get a note that we lost sound. Is the sound back? Testing, testing. Do we have sound? Ah, sound is back. Excellent. All right, so that's the roster. And for you people on the membership committee and the secretary treasurers and the vice presidents, the membership dues report. This one is another important one. A couple of reasons. A, it's going to show you who is due for renewal. So you'll see the list, the people that are highlighted at the top of the list. Those people should be well into the renewal process at this point. But then you also want to be looking for people really 6 months, 7 months down to be doing reviews with them because that gives them time to change. You know, the people that are due in December, if we start reviewing them now 6 months out and we talk with them and we work with them and let them know areas of improvement, that gives them 6 months to get to be better members, which is more likely that they're going to renew and more likely that we'll want to renew them. On the screen as well does give you the opportunity to do a member renewal. So this is to pre-approve their membership. So for example, I know that Elliot Granville, he's up for renewal in July. Let's say that I'm on the membership committee, I'm on the leadership team, and I would like to pre-approve Elliot so that when he goes to submit his renewal online in BNI Connect, he's able to do that. I can click the pre-approve here. I can review his information, and if I am the vice president or I have permission to do so, I can certify that we've had a membership committee meeting and I can pre-approve his membership. So pre-approval is always done through the membership dues report. One thing to keep in mind is that a pre-approval will send Elliot an email saying, congratulations, you've been pre-approved. Would you like to start the online renewal application now? And give him a link to do so. The summary POMS report, again, fairly straightforward, bread and butter of BNI here. By default, it's going to show you the last 6 months, but you can choose any date range you want to. You can even show 1 week, you can show 10 years, whatever you'd like to do. Now, there is an option here though, show dropped member names. By default, it's only going to show you your current chapter members. Even if I go back 10 years in time, if I click go, it's just going to show me the list of people that are currently in my chapter. It's going to hide the names of people that have dropped. However, keep in mind that the total column will include all contributions, even people that have dropped. So if you try to do the math on this, it won't necessarily add up to the total column because it will include everybody's contributions. If I'd like to see the dropped members, just make sure you click off the box and click go. And now I will see everybody that was ever a member during this period of 2004 to 2015. Skipping down a couple, absence report is great. The classifications not in chapter is a great report. Speaker report to see who's upcoming schedule for speakers. The regional leadership is going to show you all the directors in your region. The personal POMS report, before I showed you on the home screen, there's the personal participation report. Well, you can also run that personal participation report for anybody in your chapter. So especially for you that are on the membership committee, this is a great report to review people's memberships when you're having that membership committee meeting about them. You can choose anybody from your chapter and you can choose any time frame. Click go and it is the same report that is the personal participation report from the home screen. There's also a number of other reports here. The VP report, once members start filling out their profiles, it is very important. You can pull their bio. If you're going to be introducing them for their 10-minute speak or their feature presentation, you can go to member details, click on view member bio, choose the person from your chapter, and now you have their bio that you can use to introduce them for their 10-minute or feature presentation. There's the chapter visitor report. If you remember when I was telling you about the pre-registering visitors, you also have a visitor registration report that allows you can look at any period of time you want to, future as well. But it will show you all of the people that are registered to visit your chapter, when they're registered to visit, and also who invited them. So getting people to especially pre-register their visitors for visitors days, this is a great piece of accountability for leadership teams to show them who has been inviting and who has been registering their visitors. All right, we are just about at the top of the hour, so what I'd like to do is to open this up to additional questions. As I mentioned early on, I know you guys have already been here for quite a while, but I am happy to stay on this call until every single question is answered. If you have any questions about BNI Connect whatsoever, please feel free to ask them. The only silly question is the unasked one. So while you're thinking of any questions, just a reminder, this is being recorded. You will find it on the support site, support.bniconnect.com, or click on the question mark. By the way, in front of just about every function, there's a little question mark. So if you're curious as to, for example, what is the cumulative VP report, click on the little question mark. That'll take you over to the support site, and it will show you the information about that particular report, what all the details mean, etc., etc. Finally, while people are typing their questions in, a good referral for me is to look at the upcoming webinar schedule, which will be posted very shortly, and please spread the word about them. I'd love to see more people on the webinars, including some of your chapter members. And also, if you could, give us a like, facebook.com/BNI Connect Global. We do webinar announcements, tips and tricks, and all sorts of things up here on our Facebook channel as well. All right, let's see what we got here. Deanna has a question. If the visitor forwarded an application, will the visitor report be updated, or will the name be deleted automatically? So as long as the visitor is converted, so once the visitor submits an application, a couple of things can happen. So if I am in the regional office, or if I'm in a chapter that submits our own applications, I can either do one of two things. I can manage visitors, I can then search for the visitors from my chapter. Now keep in mind that searching for visitors is different than registered visitors. So registered visitors is one quote unquote database, and this is the visitors that have actually been to the meeting. And you'll notice there's some buttons here. I can either delete the visitor, or I can convert that visitor to a member. And when you convert that visitor to a member, it starts the application process, which then removes them out of the visitor database. Similarly, when the regional office, or if you do this in the chapter, when you're entering the visitors, for example, if I have permissions to do so, I go to Manage Memberships, I go to Enter New Application. And let's say I do a search for John Ferris. So this is not any of the John Ferrises. If I do a search for search visitors, I can then convert this John Ferris to a member through this screen as well. So doing that will also remove him from the visitors database, so he's not on those lists going forward. So does that answer your question, Deanna? Now, whether or not the applications happen by you at the chapter level or up at the regional office. That is a very, very much a regional decision. So do check in with your executive director, your regional office, to find out how that exactly works in your area. All right. What other questions? Questions. I love questions. All right. I don't see any additional questions. So I'd like to thank everybody for being here today. I do invite you to future webinars. Please do check out the support site upcoming for the next round of webinars. I should have those posted hopefully tomorrow, if not this weekend. Have an absolutely wonderful rest of the week, everyone, and happy connecting.